Hey YouTube, Susan here, and welcome back to my channel. The month of March was a very busy month, although I probably didn't put out very many videos. I have been working at doing a bass fishing theme. Bass fishing. This was chosen by one of my Patreons, Jacob from Chaos Paddlers. Thank you, Jacob, for suggesting this theme. I have been challenged. I started off trying to do some painting. I also did a Conte crayon drawing, another painting of another outdoorsman channel that I follow, Who's Your Back Outdoors. And finally I decided on the project of doing a paper mache bass fish itself, sort of suspended above the water, looking through the grass, that kind of thing. So this is what this video is going to be about, is to show you how to make your very own bass fishing sculpture. You might find that this is a kind of an interesting art project for, Father's Day, if you've got a fisherman in the household, something like that. So I thought I'd take the time and show you how to make it. So let's roll it. I started this project by taking a regular styrofoam block and cutting it in half so that I had a rectangle shape. Then I took some tin foil and bulked up the shape so that it was more round instead of square. Once I had enough tin foil on and a rounder shape, I did add a little bit of tape and I rounded out the edges so that it would be a bit more solid and I could work with it. I added some masking tape to hold the foil in place. Then, using a rolling motion, I patted down the edges of the fish shape so that it was more rounder and more solid. I used a bit more foil to form an open mouth and just sort of sculpt with the foil, holding it in place with some more masking tape. Then I covered the whole sculpture in masking tape to hide the texture of the foil. Now the foil alone was not enough to get the proper kind of fish lips look that I was looking for, so I actually used some pipe cleaners as well, and I held them together using tissue paper and Mod Podge. Once he was sufficiently covered in tissue paper and Mod Podge and stuff, I actually made some gills out of paper towels, and I used an old meat tray and recycled that into a tail, and also for his various fins on top and on the sides. I added some extra foil to the tail to enlarge it and make it a little bit more solid, and then of course covered it with tape to hide the texture of the tinfoil. I used more of the meat tray to complete his fins, both top and on the sides, and then just fastened them with some masking tape, some tissue paper, and Mod Podge. Then I covered his entire taped up self with tissue paper just so that I could have a smoother texture. And of course adding the Mod Podge also gives it a little bit of a hardness when it dries. So once he was dried and he was all tissue papered, I actually had a couple of plastic eyes. One of them I did while he was still wet, and the other one here I'm going to do now, just sort of positioning it in the right place, and then just use Mod Podge to glue it on. I put a little bit of tissue paper around the outside just so that it wouldn't move out of place. I tried adding some texture to the fins using some little strips of cutout cardstock that I then went over with tissue paper and Mod Podge. I also added these to the tail just to give it that little sort of fin look. Okay, so now that it's all dry, and you can see some of the little lines that you get with the tissue paper, which are kind of cool. What I thought I'd do actually would be to put a little bit more texture on just the back to represent some scales. So you can see how I got a little bit of texture using that paper in the tail and in the top of the fin. But we're going to continue with that. We're actually going to use a little bit of some just acrylic texture paste. This is what I use sometimes when I'm painting. So I'm going to try to spread a little bit onto my fish back, and we'll see how it goes. Now this stuff dries pretty fast, so I'm going to work fairly quickly here while it is wet, and we're just going to give it a little bit more texture in certain areas. What I thought I would do is I'm going to take this paper clip and just to make things interesting, we're going to fold this paper clip with a pair of pliers so that we can make like a little imprint of a scale. So if I kind of go like this, I'm going to get a uniform little scaly bit. Now, obviously, it's not going to be perfect, but it will give a little bit of texture when I go over this with some paint. And I'm just looking for subtleties here. So, we'll do that sort of over his back and see what we come up with. As it turned out, I actually liked the effect so much I did more than just his back, and I kind of did the whole fish with it. I think the added texture of the scale look really made it look kind of cool. The only problem with texture paint is it is kind of gritty, so I did give it a light sanding outside just to get off some of those parts that may be sticking up a bit much, so that when I paint it, it will be a bit more smooth. Then just took a cloth to it to wipe off any loose bits before I painted them. Then I give it a base coat of sort of a medium green color. Here's a close-up shot of the scales that you can see the texture of with just the base coat. Then I went in with some other colors to try to match an actual bass fish's markings a little bit closer, giving them some gradients of green and white and yellow and things like that, and going in with a few more details to suit. So this part was a little bit of fun actually, just to come up with his markings and try to make him look legit. It is, of course, entirely up to you how you want to paint your fish. Once he was all painted, it was time to mount him. I got out my cordless drill, and I actually pre-drilled the holes because I really just didn't want to have a lot of pressure when I stuck the wires in that would mount him. Now here I've just got 3 blocks of floral foam that you can get at any craft store, and I got some heavy-duty gauge wire, almost like a coat hanger, but a little bit thicker. That's just what I had available. And I mounted the fish directly into the floral foam so that he would look like he was swimming a little bit. Now here I'm going to be making some fake grass for him to swim through. Now I only made about 4 or 5 of these things, but I mean you could make more if you wanted to. You just use some light wire, I think it was like maybe 20 gauge wire for this, and some tissue paper and a little bit of Mod Podge. And you fold the tissue paper over, kind of smooth it out with the Mod Podge, and once it was dried I gave it a little bit of paint. And the good thing about the wire is that it is flexible, so if you want to make the grass look a little bit curved, as if, you know, there are some waves that he's swimming through, you can do that because it's so flexible. So here I'm just using you know, a bottle of something to help make a couple of round curves in my fake grass. So I thought it looked pretty cool. And lastly, I just got some moss from the floral department at Michael's, and I just put it over top of the floral foam to make it look like, you know, the bottom of the lake kind of thing. And, you know, just covered it up so it looked kind of nice. I didn't have a really fancy container to put this in, so I just put some green fabric around it at the end just to make it look a little bit more tidy. And there you have it. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I hope that you will try making this kind of paper mache sculpture for yourself. If you do, share it with me on any of your social medias. You can follow me on Twitch, you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter. I'd love to see what you come up with, and you know, create something awesome. Love to see it. Until next time, guys, stay awesome. We'll see you in the next video.